Perspective, presented by the New Orleans Secular Humanist Association, following our few principles of humanism.
We're committed to the use of science and reason for understanding the universe and for solving human problems. We're skeptical of untested claims of knowledge, but we're open to new ideas.
We are concerned with securing justice and fairness in society and in ending intolerance and discrimination. We are committed to the total separation of religion and government.
We affirm humanism as a realistic alternative to the theologies of despair and the ideologies of violence. We reject the concept of an afterlife and believe in living a full and rewarding life here and now.
We value and respect each individual's right to judge and lead their lives according to their own position, as long as it's respectful of other people, living in a free society.
We hope you enjoy today's program and others in the weeks to follow.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Humanist Perspective. I'm Jim Dugan, sitting in temporarily for your usual host, Harry Greenberger. If you've seen this program before, you know that one of the things I like to do with it is bring visibility to the diversity and variety of spiritual traditions here in the greater New Orleans area. And to that end, my guest today is Mr. Scott Ramsey. He is a retired, semi-retired attorney here in Louisiana and is here representing the New Orleans Study Center of the Theosophical Society. Welcome, Scott.
Jim, thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, just as a matter of introduction, because I think many Americans have never heard of the Theosophical Society, and those who do have heard of it, it's pretty limited. They might recognize the name and no more.
Correct.
The Theosophical Society was founded around 1875 by a mysterious woman named Madame Blavatsky, and influenced by some early thinkers like Annie Besant, if I pronounced that right.
Correct.
Who was an early feminist and doubter, unbeliever, and but was also for a long time the president of the Theosophical Society. The Theosophical Society has changed a lot from those days.
It certainly has.
So the kind of mystical foundations or mystical movements that started it and today, what's the difference?
Well, you have to look at a 19th century world, and it was a different world. To give a little background with Madame Blavatsky, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, when she was 16, she was betrothed to be married in Russia. She was the daughter of a minor Russian noble person. She jumped out the window of her home and she walked to Tibet. And in Tibet, she met with the ancient masters, the ancient Buddhist masters, and studied with them for years, and then traveled pretty much the world, including here in the United States. She became involved with Henry Steele Olcott. After the assassination of President Lincoln, they formed what essentially was a Warren Commission. And the Warren Commission was led by, it was a three-person commission, was led by Henry Steele Olcott. He was the one who did the primary investigation into John Wilkes Booth's killing of Lincoln. Ultimately, he and Mrs. Blavatsky met, and they decided to form the Theosophical Society, which they did then. She was an extremely prolific writer. She wrote a number of books, the most famous of which are Isis Unveiled and The Secret Doctrine. She continued to write and then formed the Theosophical Society, as you said, around 1875. The Theosophical Society, originally in 19th century terms, was very, very mystical. There was a lot of spiritualism involved. There was a lot of mediumship. They held seances and that type of thing. It fell into tremendous disfavor early, even with Mrs. Blavatsky.
If I might interject just in a moment there, a historical note that that really was the era of the Ouija board and the seance. That was when the ideas that we have today come from that time period.
Absolutely. And today that is not even a part of the theism. I won't say not a part of it. It's such a minor part play such an incredibly small role as to be tenths of maybe 1% of any discussion ever held in the Theosophical Society, but it's part of that. She formed the Theosophical Society, and eventually they were headquarters in Adyar, which is today in Chennai, India. There are chapters in around 70 countries around the world today. Here in the United States, our headquarters is in Wheaton, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. Beautiful campus, beautiful facility. And there are a number of theosophical, we'll call them chapters or lodges, that are around the country right now, New Orleans being one.
And the kinds of people that come to the study center here in New Orleans, what unifies them? What do they have in common? What makes them a group?
Well, what makes us as a group, and we laugh, we all have the weird gene in the family. You know, but it is every type of person that you see on the street or you would meet are members of the Theosophical Society. What brings them together is the, I guess, desire to look into esoteric ideas and values. And that's primarily what we do. We meet once a month and we discuss different ideas. There's the three objects to the Theosophical Society, and we don't wear, you know, there's no initiation. You don't wear funny hats and put on costumes. There are no degrees. You know, there are no Rinpoches or gurus in the Theosophical Society. Virtually everyone is equal, and all you have to do to become a Theosophist is to go by and say, I accept the three objects of the Theosophical Society, which are really very, very similar to what the humanists have. And the first being to form a brotherhood of man without regard to race, creed, color, religion, national origin. The second is to engage in a comparative study of religion, science, and philosophy. And the third is to explore the unknown laws of nature, of the universe, and the powers latent in man. That's all you do. And what we're in the process of doing right now in our local group, we're studying comparative religion. Our topic this month, which I think is going to be on the 12th of September, it is at 2 o'clock at the Jefferson Parish East Bank Library, we're studying Islam in detail. We've already covered most of the other major religions.
So are those meetings open to the public or to members?
Absolutely. It's all of our meetings are open to the public. They're welcome so long as nobody is disruptive or rude.
So this is a kind of study group of comparative religion in your current cycle.
In the current cycle it is, but it goes much further than just religion. It goes into all type of, any type of esoteric, intellectual discussion that you can imagine, basically we get into. And we have some very interesting people that are members.
I'm sure
You've invited me, but there's equally probably 8 to 10 people that are regular members who would be fully competent to come here and to present this program.
And you mentioned the word esoteric. I should mention that this is in distinction to exoteric. So exoteric knowledge is scientific knowledge, things that are open, things that people can discover through books and experimentation. Esoteric is hidden knowledge or secret or inner. Do you mean that in the sense of wisdom that is imparted from a teacher to a student, or do you mean it like inner exploration?
Well, it's more inner exploration, but I'm using that in the sense that generally an esoteric organization is an organization that discusses things that people in general, your average citizen, are not that interested in. And you're absolutely right from your perspective that it comes from knowledge, but primarily the knowledge in the Theosophical Society comes from study. It comes from hard work, reading books, looking at videos, discussing with other people, going to seminars. And one thing I love about Theosophy more than any other religion is the open-minded nature of Theosophy. There is no dogma. There are no rituals. It tells you essentially, explore everything, question everything. There is nothing you have to accept in Theosophy, even the most sacred teachings, and I call them sacred teachings, which are the not of Blavatsky or anyone else, if it doesn't appeal to your personal sense of reason, you can reject it. And it's the open-minded way of looking at an idea or a theory or a society and then dissecting that, discussing it with others, that I find so fascinating. And most other people who are involved with theosophy do also.
So, I think there's a lot of parallel with some more secular movements like secular humanism in the sense of the openness and lack of doctrine compared to someone like myself who's much more materialistic. You're open to discussing more ideas about the immaterial, the spiritual, the other planes or dimensions that we can't really perceive.
In a way, we're very, very similar to the humanist, and I won't go so far as to say exactly, but in general, if you would take a humanist organization into that, you would add a belief in the afterlife and a belief in a God, then you'd have theosophy. Other than that, it's very, very simple. Although theosophy is not a religion, and it's not intended to be a religious organization. The motto of the organization is, there is no religion higher than truth. It accepts all religions. It believes all religions are good, and people get something out of every religion, or you even get something out of no religion. Many theosophists are Buddhist, and as you know, Buddhist or atheist.
Yes.
No, they're Buddhist or atheist. They'll tell you that they're atheists. If you speak with the Dalai Lama, listen to him. He says, Buddhist or atheist, and they are in a sense. Atheism, I think, it's misunderstood a great deal because, as you know, there's different forms of atheism.
The word covers a lot of territory.
It covers a tremendous amount of territory. And one thing in theosophy, those are the type of things you look into. Don't just apply a label. Look into what's behind the label, study it, try to learn it, tear it apart, find out what it's about. And then if it's an idea that you like and it appeals to you and it satisfies you intellectually, accept it.
So is the study center mostly these kinds of meetings, or do you actually have a facility, a library?
No. Well, we just got started. We restarted it up in February of 2014. Previously, Mrs. Elizabeth Werlein from Werlein Music, she was the leader of the Theosophical Society here. I think she was also the one who preserved the French Quarter, the Vieux Carré. She did a lot of work with that, and she did a lot of other civic work. Theosophy here in New Orleans kind of died out in World War II. And there have been many, many, many famous theosophists over the years that some know of, people don't. During World War II, for various reasons, theosophy fell out of disfavor after World War II because of what Hitler did with certain theosophical beliefs.
Some of the mystical aspects that some Nazi propagandists tried to work with.
Precisely. He had some theosophists within his original organization. And for instance, one thing in theosophy is you believe that there are 7 different stages of man. We're in the 5th stage right now, and the 5th stage is the Aryan stage, that we're in the Aryan race stage at this point now. Aryan simply means anybody can be an Aryan. It's a stage of development of man. It's not a race. So a person of any race, of all races, is at the Aryan stage of development, as opposed to a Neanderthal or something along those lines. We're in that stage of development. And he took it, he changed it to where it was simply the Germanic and Nordic people that were superpowers. And on the crest of the Theosophical Society, at the very top, there's the swastika, and that's an ancient Sanskrit symbol, thousands of years old. It's been used all these years and still used as a symbol of good luck or a symbol of the universe. He changed that and adopted that symbol as the symbol of the Nazi Party. So after World War II, with all the problems that developed, there was some resentment, or I guess it was some skepticism of the Theosophical Society, totally unwarranted. It's kind of like the Ku Klux Klan taking Christianity and burning crosses on people's front lawns. Doesn't mean every Christian is going to go out and burn crosses on somebody's front lawn. And it's the same thing is true with the way that Hitler had done with Theosophy. And that's pretty well realized now, and Theosophy is making a very, very strong comeback, and we're trying to help it here locally.
Had to rise above that unfortunate bit of history there. It is worth noting that the word Aryan, actually comes from an ancient Indian root, Arya, which was a northern group of people in very ancient times in India, and the swastika has been around for thousands of years. I think it's hard for modern people to get past that 1930s, 1940s era. The Nazi history has changed the meanings of those things in our minds from what they used to be.
Very, very, very true. And that all came with Hinduism that started, about 5,000 years ago on the Indus River. And Hindu basically means people of the river. And yeah, that's where a lot of the terms that are used today, you'll find a lot of Hindu terms and beliefs that have come through the Theosophical Society, along with all other religions as well.
And certainly in the foundations of Theosophy, there was a very deliberate blend of East and West, very conscious. Is that still part of, certainly if you're looking at all different religions, you're looking at Eastern and Western religions.
Yes, sir. It's a blend of Eastern and Western philosophy. Primarily here in the East, in the West, we've become bogged down with materialism, the search for money, the search for fame, the search for power. We're adopting more of the Eastern ideas where they believe that enlightenment is more important than the strictly materialistic ideas. And the Theosophical Society somewhat helps that. They were one of the founders of helped found the United Nations to be able to go ahead and have a platform for all organizations and governments across the world to discuss with one another. So yeah, there's a definite foundation of that there.
So I would say most Americans may recognize the name Theosophical, probably don't know too much about it. Is there a reason for that? Is your group doing more outreach? How do you market yourselves? Do you market yourselves?
We do not market ourselves. There's no Theosophical missionaries. We don't try to go ahead and impose our doctrine or beliefs on anyone else. We essentially say, this is what we do and this is what we are, and if you would like to come in and join with us in open-minded discussions of virtually any subject that has to deal with how we make the world a better place, you're welcome to come to it. But no, there is no any type of apostolizing. We don't go out and knock on people's doors. We don't grab our brother-in-law and say, hey, you got to join the Theosophical Society. You're welcome to join if you would like, and if you don't, that's fine.
Of course, it is now the 21st century, so if you're not actively pursuing marketing, getting the name out there, but it is available. You have a Facebook page, for example, and a website for the national organization.
We do. And we put different ads in newspapers around town about our meetings. We appear like program like you have here today, and the word gets out, but we're not an organization that is going to try to force anyone into believing anything. Unless they come in open-minded and want to go ahead and listen and discuss intellectual ideas, we really don't want to force it on anybody.
And even for non-members, they might want to take advantage of some of the meetings that you have, some of the discussion sessions or study sessions about comparative religion, if you're interested in that. I certainly am.
Absolutely. We're on meetup.com, and I think on Meetup we have between 80 and 90 members. I don't have a current. It's every day I get a couple more. Say every day. Every week I get a couple more, but it's around 80 to 90 people right now that are members of our organization through Meetup. And a lot of them show up at the meetings, and they discuss with us whatever topic it is we happen to be discussing at the time, and many participate. And we have doctors, we have neurosurgeons, we have priests, we have students, we have people that can barely speak English. We have people from all different countries. It's really a diverse group of people, including Catholics, Jews, Muslims. Any religion you can possibly think of. We have a lot of Hindus that are members. We have some Buddhists that are members.
So now, currently your meetings are focusing on studying world religions. What are some other topics you've covered recently or are planning in the near future?
Each week we pick I pick a separate, and not each week, each month I pick a separate topic to discuss. And we discuss topics such as reincarnation, enlightenment, various other esoteric subjects. I don't recall all of them at the moment, but a big one is reincarnation and the different ways of beliefs on reincarnation.
I find that topic particularly interesting because the traditional Hindu origin of the ideas of reincarnation is often in the West called transmigration. That is, a human spirit can be reincarnated as an insect or a lizard some other time. Whereas the modern Western concept is humans reincarnate as humans. And I've kind of suspected that idea that's common in the West, is a common Western understanding of reincarnation, probably is a product of early theosophy.
In a way it is, and we do go along with the transmigration idea, although there is no official line. Most theosophists who believe in reincarnation believe that you don't reincarnate backwards. That is, once you're a human, you don't go back to being a bug or a worm or a bird, but that souls develop and evolve the same way that different animals develop and evolve. And we have evolved our soul through the mineral, through the plant, through the animal into a human, and you don't go backwards from that stage. But what's interesting is the way with reincarnation. Virtually every religion in the world believes in reincarnation. Some that are not religions believe in reincarnation. Some that are atheists believe in reincarnation, and that's a difficult concept to grasp. However, Christianity, by and large, says we don't believe in reincarnation, and that's not at all true. Christianity reincarnation was a doctrine of Christianity until the 6th century, when Emperor Justinian and his wife Theodora called a large meeting of all the bishops, half of which boycotted the meeting because they knew it was coming. And after 6 weeks of trying to force them into rejecting reincarnation as a Christian value, primarily because Theodora didn't want to come back as a housemaid or something after being the Empress of Rome, they put it to a vote and it lost by one vote. So for the last 1,500 years or so, people have believed that reincarnation is not a Christian value or belief, when in fact it was and is very close to still being. But there are different forms, as we were saying, of reincarnation, and it gets very, very complicated. For instance, the Buddhists are atheists, yet they believe in reincarnation. So if you're an atheist, how do you believe in an afterlife? And then you come back and you reincarnate because they believe that the current Dalai Lama is the reincarnation of the previous Dalai Lama. At least that's a general thing. But their idea of reincarnation is that you don't reincarnate as a single individual, that your life force goes into an overall pool of life energy that exists in the universe the same way that matter and other energy exist in the universe, and that when you reincarnate, you come back as perhaps pieces of different people, one of which might be the previous Dalai Lama.
I think that's important. If we're interested in comparative religion, that's actually an important point, because in religions like Hinduism and Jainism, there's a self or a soul that is eternal. Atman is the word, but in Buddhism you have an-atman, a non-self, which is psychologically an attempt to get us to stop clinging to our ideas about ourselves.
Well, you have the manas, the Buddha, and the Atman. The Atman being the idea of God, the Buddha being the spiritual part of your soul, and the manas being the human part of your soul, containing your emotions and memories. And if something is going to reincarnate, it's the three higher levels of a human. Those levels, the manas, Buddha, and Atman, which are going to ultimately reincarnate.
So what's coming up for your organization in the foreseeable future over the next couple of months? Public meetings, other activities?
So we're a relatively new group to New Orleans. After it died out, after World War II. we're just in the process of getting it started again, and we've put on a couple of, we bring in speakers, and we have the speakers speak to the public. We would like to move eventually to the point to where we can actually have a building of our own, and we can start our own library there and then start doing projects, as other theosophical organizations around the country do, in helping the community in general, like a lot of other civic organizations do. We haven't grown to that point yet. We're striving to get there. We just haven't arrived at that point quite yet.
So if somebody went to Wheaton, Illinois, which is am I saying that right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's the national headquarters
for the United States.
What would people find there?
Oh, you'd find a great big building that looks like a school building. They actually have an elementary school there. It's where the Montessori schools actually started, with the Theosophical Society. You would find a bookstore. You'd find a dormitory. You would find, I think there's about 35, 40 acres of highly wooded land there, really a beautiful place, and you'd find a incredible library, there.
How big a library do you have? Books, I love books. So
beautiful library. I don't know how I can tell you the number of books in there, but between the online resources and the books, it's a incredible tool, and it's open. If you're a member of the Theosophical Society, you have access to all of it. If not, then you have access to the public portion of it. But the online resources and the books are just absolutely incredible.
Now, a random question here, but I know some people in the Theosophical Society are interested in a figure in World War II era American man known as the Sleeping Prophet, Edgar Casey. And I've actually visited it in Virginia Beach, Virginia, the association.
We were just there,
We were just, So, I mean, that's a place where, the library of esoterica, right, of books on all kinds of religious, philosophical, spiritual, clairvoyance, psychic phenomena, whatever. They have this amazing library of that sort of stuff.
Theosophists in general, and of course every theosophist is different because it's open-minded and free to do whatever. But in general, they respect Edgar Casey. He's not really a theosophist per se, but they respect what he did and his beliefs, and believe that he did an excellent job getting esoteric values into the public eye.
And the library, and the Theosophical Library, would be something similar in content,
much
maybe?
larger,
but
much
bigger,
larger.
Okay,
much larger. Yeah, with a full-time staff of librarians and very, very, very well kept up. In fact, to me personally, that's one of the things I enjoyed the most, was seeing the library up there.
Now, we're fast running out of time here.
Yeah, I just saw the gentleman come in.
If people are want to find out more, they should go. What should they do? They
can go to our Facebook page, Theosophical Society in New Orleans, or they can contact the national organization, the Theosophical Society in America.
And that's theosophical.org. Scott Ramsey, thank you so much for coming today and telling us about the Theosophical Study Center here in New Orleans.
Jim Dugan, thank you very much for inviting me. I've enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.